Now, let's talk just a little bit about generative fill and how it works. Okay. It's an amazing tool and does just so much for us, okay, to help us make our images better. Now, what I'm going to do over here, notice I've got all these layers, that I was working on. So I think what I'd like to do is just flatten those layers over there so that we can work on another part of the image. Now, if I wanted to leave this where I could go back and edit it another time, I could do the stack command that I told you about last week, where you hold down the shift and the alternate and the controller command and touch the letter E. When you do that, it's just going to take all these layers and combine them into one. Let me show you what I mean. So I'm holding down the shift, the alternate, and the control or the command, okay? And I'm going to touch the letter E on my keyboard, all right? When I do that, notice what happened here, okay? It created a brand new layer with all these changes below that have been corrected on it, which that's kind of helpful. So if I ever needed to get back to here, I could always just delete this layer and start over again, okay? So it's really, really helpful. Now, what I could do if I wanted to, if I knew that I wasn't going to be making any changes to that in the background, I could come right up here to this left-hand side of my screen right there. I don't know if you can see it or not, but there's 4 little lines, horizontal lines right over there. If I click on those, a large menu is going to open up with an awful lot of things that we could do to this particular image. And one of them being right down here at the bottom is flatten image, okay? So that's really handy. So if you know you're not going to do any more changes to the image, go ahead and flatten it. It reduces the size a little bit, and it makes it a little bit easier to work with, okay? All right. So now what I think I'm going to do is go over here to the background layer, and I'm going to duplicate that layer. Remember, we did that by holding down the command or the control key, and we touched the letter J for jump. So what we did is we jumped the copy up to a new layer. All right, good enough? Okay, so we jumped that copy up there. Now we're going to start working on this image just a little bit to get rid of a few of the distractions, and we're going to let generative fill do that for us, okay? So what I'm going to do, y'all, I'm going to go over here and I'm going to get the lasso tool. Notice it's 1, 2, 3 tools down from the top, okay? And I'm going to click the lasso, but notice when I click on the lasso, I get these other types of lasso tools, okay? We're just going to use the regular one right now, okay? So what I want to do is, see these little spots right down here? Let me blow that up a little bit. Right there, that little spot, and maybe that little spot right there. Kind of distracts me a little bit. I know I'm being real picky, but I want to demonstrate something. So if I take the lasso tool and just make a circle, nothing fancy, okay? I just made a circle around it, okay? Now remember I told you that on any of the selection tools, if you hold down the shift key, notice there is a plus coming up right behind the lasso tool. So if I hold the shift key down, it actually allows me to add to the selection, okay? So I click and drag. Now I've got 2 things selected, okay? Now, on the other hand, if I want to take away, I press the alternate key. Notice that a minus appears at the 5 o'clock area. And if I go, whoopsie daisy, sorry about that. If I go up here and I press the alternate key and I circle this area right here, notice that selection is no longer there, okay? So you can take away or you can add. I'm going to add right now, add this to that particular selection right there. Okay, so I've got 2 areas selected right now that I think I'd maybe like to get rid of, okay? So I'm just going to come right down here. I'm not going to give it any kind of command. I'm just going to click on where it says generative fill, okay? And I'll click that, and notice it comes up and it's asking me, Steve, do you want to put something in those selected areas? And right now, no, I don't want to, so I'm just going to hit generate, okay? Now you say, what's it going to generate, Steve? Well, it's going to look at the area around it, and it's going to see if it can remove that particular items on the screen, and fill them in with items that's around it. Now notice what it just did, y'all. Those two areas here, I can turn that layer on and off, I believe. Yep, there it is. You see, there's those two areas that were there. Okay, and if I turn that generative fill layer back on, notice those distractions are gone. Okay, it does a super job. Now, how large of an area could I choose? Maybe I want it to look like this dad and daughter are walking down the beach by themselves. Okay, so why don't I take this right here? Okay, and we'll make a little circle right around that person. This guy in the red jacket, he's really sticking out there, because that red jacket really stands out. So let's make a selection around him. And I'll tell you what, let's go ahead and circle this guy here. Let's just see what happens. All right. So we got 3 areas selected. I'm going to hit the generative fill. Okay. And then I'm going to hit generate. I'm not going to give it any command. I'm just going to hit the word generate. And it's going to take depending on the speed of your computer, it's going to take it a moment, and it's going to look at these areas, and it's going to try to fill those areas with what looks like surrounded area. Now look at this, y'all. Look at this. They're gone. Okay. All right. It's really amazing here. I'll turn this layer off. There it is right there. And look how much distraction those people really were. Look, you got all those people walking over there. But if we turn that on like that, it's almost like dad and daughters on the beach, except for these folks right up here. Let's just see. I've not tried this. Let's just see. What if I select all these people right up here? I have no idea what's going to happen here, y'all. So I'm going to select them all. I'm going to hit generative fill. And I'm going to hit generate, okay? And it's going to look at that area up there once again, and it's going to try to fill it in with something that looks appropriate to that area. It's going to try to match all the surroundings to see what it can do. And look at that, y'all.